Hey, everybody, it's Wednesday. It's 3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That means it's time for Come Along Coffee. That means it's time to wake up from your naps. And that means that it's time to talk mules and donkeys for the next hour. My name is Dave. This is Steve Edwards, and we are your tour guides into the theme park of donkey and equine ownership. And it is our privilege to be here every single week to just share a little bit about what Steve Edwards has learned in these last 40 years or so, working with the mule, working with the donkey. Of course, if you got questions about horses, he's been cowboying all his life, so we'll answer a question here or there. But for the most part, y'all are here for the most amazing creations on the face of the planet, aside from the human being, and that is the mule and the donkey. Steve, how's the day?
Oh man, I tell you what, I had a hard nap.
Had a good one going there.
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, besides that, my watch I had one of them watches that does everything, and whatever it does anyway, it has an alarm on it to set me up for things, and it died.
Oh,
And so
there you go.
I'm still alive.
You're still alive. Steve Edwards is alive and kicking. DJ Donkey is here. Of course, if you don't know what that is, just keep watching, and I'm sure it'll come up another point in time. I'm just going to tell you all how this works, and then we'll get right to it. So for the next hour, we are taking any and every question that you've got. And if this is your first time ever hanging out with us, we are incredibly happy that you are taking a chance, that you're spending a little bit of your day with us. For those who watch every single week, you already know that we don't take it for granted. We know you could be doing a lot of different things with your time, and the fact that you show up here each and every week to share a little bit of your day with us, well, it does mean a lot. There's really only three things that we ask in return. The first thing is that you just let us know that you're watching. Put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like in the comments section, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. We'll see it, and we want to say hello to you. The second thing that we ask is that you ask any and every mule or donkey question that you've got. And there's a lot of them out there. We cover new things just about every single week, but not just new things. We cover old territory over and over again, and there's a really great reason why we do that. Number one is that new folks are watching every single week. So if this is your first time, you're going to hear some of these answers for the first time. So we want to make sure everybody gets the answers that they need. But number two, it's all about repetition, and it's all about continuing to approach the same techniques, the same trainings, but maybe from a different angle, maybe from a direction or from a context that you haven't heard before. So there is no question that we won't answer. Everything is on limits here when it comes to mules and donkeys. So put those questions in there, and just about every week, I think maybe there might have been 1 week here where we weren't able to answer all of them, but we get through them. And then the last thing that we ask, and this is really the best way to show your support for this show, is to share the broadcast. If you're watching on Facebook, just type the @ symbol and then tag a friend or a family member who you think would appreciate a little bit of education on mules and donkeys. Or you can click the share button. And if you're on YouTube, click the like and then click the subscribe to the channel button. That lets YouTube know that, hey, Queen Valley Mule Ranch is putting out good stuff. You should show this to other people. So that's what you can do there. Steve, if it's all right with you, I'm going to go ahead and start saying hello to the folks who are hanging out with us.
Fire it up, buddy. Let's go.
Let's do it. Roger is watching from Milan, New York. Very sunny and breezy. Jackie is watching from Placitas, New Mexico. It is a beautiful sunny day, about 73 degrees. Brazil is watching from Enoch, Utah, and it is a nice day today, he says. Robert is watching from Painted Ass Ranch in Texas, 71 and sunny. Heather is watching from Nevada. It's 90 degrees today and climbing. We know what that's like out here in the desert, out here in Arizona, Heather. Janet is watching from Leonard, North Dakota, 70 and sunny. Jana Griffin is watching, cloudy and rainy in Wyoming. Naomi is watching. Answering here. I think this might be Yolanda. I'm blocked on Facebook again. Whether it's the Netherlands, nice today, or my first spring ride today. Don't ride my mule for 4 months, and just like that, the saddle go up and out. International. There we go. Karen is watching from Central Virginia. A little cool, but sunny. Good to be able to catch y'all live. We're glad that you're here too, Karen. Kathy is watching from Fremont, Michigan. Sunny and breezy, but a cool 58 degrees. Let's see. Naomi, forgot the temperature is slowly climbing. Cowgirl is watching from Parker, Colorado. Sunshine, yippee. Let's see here. And Joe is watching from Payson. So, folks, yeah, if you're just coming in, go ahead. Put your name, what the weather's like, and where you're watching from, and we'll get to it. Steve, we're going to hop into our first question of the day. And this question comes from Jim. He says, what does it mean when a mule travels with her tongue hanging out or goes down the trail with the head hanging low? Do you have live seminars at the ranch? How tight can you make the front cinch so saddle doesn't slip? I would like to join the Steve Edwards Mule Ranch email newsletter. Please keep me in the loop. So here's the deal, Jim. We'll answer the live seminars at the ranch. Yes, we do live clinics. We don't have any scheduled right now, but keep looking, keep watching, and it may be that this fall we'll have another one. When it comes to the tight cinch, Steve will answer that. The Mule Ranch newsletter, I'll make sure that you're on it. But Steve, let's start with, what does it mean when a mule travels with her tongue hanging out or goes down the trail with the head hanging low?
Well, there's two different things there, okay? Head hanging low. That's is it low because it's getting grass? Usually their heads up and elevated. So I can't tell you that one. I'm not sure. First of all, I need to know what type of bit are you using. We can go that. Now, next part, if the tongue is out, you've got your bit too high. And unfortunately, that happens a lot because folks think, okay, the tongue is out, so I'm going to go ahead and make it go higher. And that's okay. That mule can still get his tongue over top of the bit. I don't care how far you put it back in, because the tongue is still longer and it can go out. So if the tongue is sticking out, the bit is too high. That's one. The next thing you might want to think about is, why is it sticking out? Do you have the wrong bit? It happens a lot. Remember, the majority of horses, of bits that you see out there for sale, are made for a horse. They're not designed for a mule. I have a lot of people, Dave, that say, hey, I've got a mule bit, looks just like that. No, you may have some similarities, but the one thing about my bit is how it's designed for the donkey and the mule's mouth. So hopefully that'll help you. See, that's on how tight's the front cinch. Well, on my saddles, you can slide your front hand through the front cinch.
And the moniker that you kind of coin is loose in the front, snug in the back.
There you are.
There we go. Next question here. This is a really good one. A lot of times when the questions are longer, I'll go ahead and parse them down, but this is a good one. It comes from Gray. And here's what Gray says. Steve, this is just a great opportunity to talk here. I am seeking your advice. I have never owned a mule or a horse. I had a small donkey for years to guard my cows. I love to bow hunt elk in the Rockies. I'm 350 pounds, 58-year-old man. I live in Louisiana and 20 feet above sea level on a 50-acre farm. Sounds like the life. Two of my friends love to ride their mules, and both have said they would believe I would love it also. I've been reading and watching videos about saddles and mules, talked to several folks. What I want to know is, what size and age of a mule should I get in order to carry my big frame safely? I have been told I should get a draft mule cross. Then I was told that would be a bad choice from someone else. Since I am less than a beginner, I do not know who I can trust or believe. However, there are a few common facts I have come across this research. Get a mule that's 10 years old. Get a mule that is dead broke. I'm not sure 100% what this means. Get at least a 17-inch sandals, and the name Steve Edwards. I found a mule, but I have waited until Father's Day before I can bid on her. I wouldn't know a good saddle if I tripped over it, nor would I know how to put it on a mule, much less a right mule for me. Please help me out. Can you sell me a safe mule that can handle my weight and inexperience alone with the proper saddle and tack? So I'll answer that last one right there. When it comes to buying a mule, there is no recommendation that anybody can really give you unless they have spent time around that mule, unless they have watched that mule interact, unless they have spent lots of time getting to know the mule. So Steve will tell you, I can't recommend one for you. I can tell you what to look for, but I don't know that mule. So as far as recommendations go, send text messages, and we'll do as best we can to say, hey, here's what you might want to consider. Let's talk about the other part of it, Steve.
Okay, so number one, folks, when we're looking at industrial standards, doesn't make any difference if you got a 13-hand mule or a 18-hand mule. They all have tendons. and you can blow a tendon even if even if everything is right. There's still a possibility, but you can also blow a tendon if we are putting a lot of weight on our animals. Now, you go to the Grand Canyon, and their standard is 200 pounds. No matter how you look at it, 200 pounds is a good overall weight. 200 pounds. Our dead weight is 200 pounds, and our live weight basically is 200 pounds. So here it goes to this. Yes, I would put you in a draft animal. 200 pounds is pretty much industrial standards. I can tell you that there's few of us fat guys, me included, that are 200 pounds, and I'm 205. So there you are. If I was at the Grand Canyon right now, they would not let me ride. So the saddle is going to, what I would suggest on all of my riders is a slick fork saddle called the Rancher. And that's usually because my bigger riders, it's not so much our rump size, or it's our thigh size. So the thing about the Rancher is that would give you plenty of room. If you go online and go over to my Rancher saddle, you'll get introduced to a guy by the name of Toby. And Toby is 340 pounds. He's a big boy. But watch him get in and out of that saddle and climb on that mule. And me next to him, I look like a dwarf next to this man. He's a big boy. But he rides a Steve Edwards saddle, a Rancher, and that's going to give you plenty of thigh size. So that'll help. The mule, definitely draft mule, Percheron, or Belgian, something like that would be a really good mule for you.
Very good. Awesome. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Folks, this is your first time you're watching. You'll notice that I put links in the comment section throughout the entire show, and that's just to give you an opportunity to check out some of the things that we're talking about. We're not here to sell tack or saddles or anything like that. The truth is, some of the solutions that we offer, they're free. Some of them are easy. Some of them are inexpensive. Some of them cost a little bit of money. Some of them are difficult. It just ranges across the board, but we're going to make sure you get paired up with exactly what you want. And then I put a link to that Rancher saddle, and y'all can see pictures of Toby just like Steve was talking about. Let's go back over to Facebook and YouTube and just see who else is joining us. Myra is watching from California. Nice weather, but so dry. I hear you there, Myra. I hear you. Eileen is watching, cloudy and 70 degrees in Nebraska today. Cowgirl says the sound keeps cutting out. If y'all are having any trouble with the sound, would y'all holler and let me know? If you are having trouble, a lot of times refreshing the browser, or if you're on your phone or tablet, closing the app and coming back in, that'll resolve the problems. RV says, why can't I just use a Bosal on my mule for permanent use every day?
Well, you can if the mule is well trained. There's nothing wrong with that. It's because here's the deal with the Bosales is there are different size Bosales that you would use, and if you want to be really refined, then you go into the bit, and the bit is what gives you a refined, very well touched mule. The problem with the constant use of the Bosales is most people are using incorrect sizes. You're going to start with a heavy Bosales to start with when you start your foundation training, and then you'll go right into kind of a pencil-like Bosales. But remember now, your Bosales, when you get to a certain point, you're going to be riding 80% off your legs, 20% off your hands. So that would be your thoughts. But if it was me, I would not stay continually into a Bosales. Mules care more about their nose than they do their mouth, and pretty soon they'll get tired of you pulling on their nose, and you could have a runaway.
Very good. Lots of great questions. The next one comes from Gerald. Now, Steve, Gerald is one of your clients. He's got himself the Ground Foundation starting kit. He's got the Come Along rope halter, Ground Foundation, that video, that's what building a new foundation. But he also got the Mule Rider's martingale. And so I want to go through and read his experience here. It's a little bit longer, so bear with me. But he says, I need some advice. I viewed the DVDs that came along with the come-along rope and halter and the one that came with the Mule Rider's martingale. I also watched some of your videos online. The mule I recently bought was supposedly green broke. I know he was sent to the Amish for 2 weeks to get started. He's a 3-year-old John mule, right about 14 hands. The lady I bought him from told me she did not know what to recommend for a bit. He seems to be well halter broke, loads and unloads nicely, and has a very good disposition. I've worked with him on the ground, and he does well, and I have rode him about 7 times now in rides ranging from 3 to 10 miles. I worked with the come-along hitch, but he already seemed to obey most cues fairly well. I do not have a round pin here. I did work on a lunge line, but he didn't go around well or reverse directions well. Anyways, the first time I rode him was about a 10-mile trail at a nearby lake and went with a friend and his wife. Mule did pretty well. Didn't feel like I had good control over him with the Tom Thumb snaffle bit I was using. A friend of mine that you have helped here in Kansas, Chuck, says recommended your Mule Rider's martingale. Anyways, the first time I used it, he started out well. We rode for about 3 miles, but then he started fighting me bad with his head. Basically, I had no control over him. My mule is small mule, and the bit is extremely wide. Anyways, the corner of his mouth were very sore. I probably rode 6 miles that day. The second time I rode him with your Mule Rider's martingale, he fought me every step of the way. I feel like the bit in the martingale is too wide for a small mule, hurts him. This may be worse due to the mule fighting me. The mule is great disposition, but I need better control. Any recommendations?
Sure, you bet. Number one, that bit is what I use on my martingale. It's what I use on everything. And the mule that I ride is 13 2 hands high, small mouth. It's not like a horse, folks, to where you want to have it close right in here on a snaffle bit. It's like a violin bow going across the violin is the way I like to look at it. Now, the corners of the mouth are you got a strawberry patch. You know what? That's not your fault. That's the mule's fault for bracing and pushing. Now, it sounds like to me that you don't have your foundation correct with the Mule Rider's martingale. Have you done your groundwork like it shows on the video? Does your mule drop his head, get his nose on the vertical? That's really important. When you pick up on the reins with a nice little easy pickup with the 2 hands, does he back up nice? I need to know that stuff.
So let me ask you this, Steve, because for folks who don't know, I know nothing about this stuff. I have the knowledge, but I don't have the understanding. Steve's been working with the mules. I know what Steve would say. I know how Steve will answer questions. I can answer a lot of questions based upon what I know Steve would say, but not because I've gone out there and done it myself. One of the things you say a lot, Steve, is let the mule tell you where he wants to pack the bit. Folks will say, 2 wrinkles, 1 wrinkle, 2 wrinkles, etc. But you've said, no, don't do that. Let it hang there. The mule will pick it up, mess around with it, and find a place where he likes to pack it. Is this one of those instances where maybe he's set it too far back in the mouth and he's trying to create wrinkles and the mule doesn't like it there? Is that a connection?
That's a very good possibility, Dave, a very good possibility. Folks, we have to remember that when we're riding, we want to ride with a loose rein. When this mule gets a hold of the bit and presses on it, he's going to get corners of his mouth. It's going to be a strawberry patch. And you know what? He done it. You didn't do it. If he would have listened to you when you picked up on the reins to say slow down or stop or turn, if he had listened to you, he wouldn't have those. He wouldn't have them. So it sounds like to me that number one, we need to go back to the ground work and do our ground foundation. Next thing I need to know is the teeth, where the teeth floated.
There we go. Awesome. We'll wait to hear back on that. I sent a message so he can watch your reply. We'll go back over here to YouTube, to Facebook. Caitlin's got a question. I have a mule that swings her head when you go to get on her. What can I do to fix that? Is the mule trying to communicate something, Steve?
Swings her head like back and forth, left and right, or just over towards you?
Let's see. Caitlin, let's go ahead. Caitlin, go ahead and send a little bit of a more context. Answer Steve's question, and we'll get back to yours. Let's see here. We'll keep moving on. Hey, Linda's here. Linda the mule servant and Theo the sweet one-eyed mule shedding red hair everywhere here in chilly, sunny, rural central Ohio. It's good to have you guys. Cowboy Ken's watching from Connecticut where it's 57 degrees and sunny. Jackie has a question. Does your basic equitation video cover how to side pass, move on the front and the back ends, and backing up?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. The basic equitation gets you how to do the foundation to get to it, and then it goes on from there.
Just take a second, Steve. Just what is basic equitation mean?
Well, it's the very basics of it. In other words, how you start it, how you move your hands, how you move your legs, how the mule is supposed to move. That's what it amounts to. Your ultimate goal is to ride 80% off your legs. That would be your ultimate goal.
Awesome.
20% off your hands. But it's just very light movements, precise movements.
Awesome. Great question, Jackie. Really appreciate you asking. Bonnie's watching over on YouTube, Indiana, 65 and sunny. Okay, Caitlin back here on Facebook. She says, I have a mule that swings her head at me when you go to get on her. She swings it at me like she's trying to hit me. She's 18 years old.
Ah, there we are. All right. So, Caitlin, sounds like your mule is trying to tell you, I'm uncomfortable here. It'd be nice if I could see a picture, but is your saddle setting in the right place? When the mule swings his head back to look, fortunately he's not biting you. Sometimes they will. So if she's swinging her head back, she's saying, hey, I'm being harmed here. I'm being hurt some way or another. So let's do this. I really need a picture. Send me a picture to my 602-999-6853 number. Okay. Send me a picture and let me see how your saddle is placed and where it is. And that way I can probably suggest to you, because most likely we got a saddle fitting problem here.
That's not uncommon, Caitlin. We hear it all of the time. And as a matter of fact, switching saddles is often part of the solution because folks will wind up using a saddle that has bars, the length, and the design meant to shape the horse. When you look at a mule, you need bars that are shorter in length to accommodate the bone structure in terms of length, but then also shaped differently to accommodate the shape of the neck and the scapula and things of this sort. But one thing that we've noticed is even folks who go ahead and make that investment and get themselves, we don't say a mule saddle, we say a Steve Edwards saddle, because anybody can just slap the word mule on a saddle and say you're good to go. We don't sell mule saddles. We sell Steve Edwards saddles. We have so many people who will call and say, Steve, your saddle didn't fit. Your saddle did not work. And so what we love, like I said earlier, nothing is off limits. We want to have people call us and tell us when they're experiencing something, because what will happen is Steve will say, go ahead and send me a picture of your animal all tacked up. And by golly, 95% of the time, the issue has to do with the way that it's been positioned on the back of the mule in juxtaposition to the britchin and then the breast collar and then the cinches. It all works together. So go ahead, send that picture to Steve. And if any of y'all have any questions about it, being tacked up and you got one of Steve's saddles, but it's not working quite the way you thought it would, send that picture in. We'll take care of you. And matter of fact, we had, I can't remember, Beth, I think, from North Carolina. She said the same thing. Hey, it's all messed up. I got your saddle. I'm really disappointed. Steve said, well, let's get on the phone. Next week, we got ornaments in the mail from Beth saying, I should have just watched the video. Thank you, Steve Edwards. You remember that, Steve?
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's inevitable. I have a lot of people that just, the first thing they want to do is put the saddle on and see how it fits.
Yeah.
Don't do that, you know. I've got the video there. Watch the video. Get education. Know where to put that saddle, and you'll do fine.
Very good. Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. Tanya is watching from Old Town, Florida, 80 degrees. Please let Steve know Susan is making progress with Daisy. I'm leaving her one more month, which will make 4 months of training with Susan. Thanks for the recommendation. Love hearing that. Awesome. Thanks, Tanya.
Yep. That's Susan, one of my apprentices. She apprenticed with me for 2 months, and she was also one of my students at Pierce College in L.A. Susan Sonderberg.
That's awesome. Joey is watching, says, if you have a mule that wants to eat grass while you're riding, what should you do? I appreciate y'all on Wednesday evenings. Thanks, in Mississippi. Wants to eat grass while you're riding.
Well, that's a major problem. They're grazers, folks, and that's what they do. You know, and if we allow them in the very beginning to feed and graze, especially if we're leading one, we have a problem. So what I usually do is I put the come along hitch on them, and I walk along like I'm going on a trail ride. And if they try to get a bite, I give them a hard reprimand with that come along hitch. The come along hitch is a great fixer. Now, here's the problem. When you're in the saddle, you can't use the come along hitch. On the ground, you're building a foundation. Now in the saddle, we can go using the mule rider's martingale. You can go right, left, right, left, right, left, and that tells them, hey, don't be doing that. Now, if that doesn't work, then here's the next thing I like to do. And that is I'll take baling wire and I'll make kind of a cavesson that goes around the mouth above the bit. So when they open their mouth, it bumps their nose. And I remember that, folks. When a mule is being bumped on his nose, that makes him uncomfortable. That's why the come along hitch works so well. So when he opens his mouth, it bumps his nose, it makes him uncomfortable. The problem is you can jerk on him and jerk on him till cows come home, and they'll get to be where they're so fast they can literally get a bite before you even jerk on them. So, like when you rode Stacy, that's one of the first things I did was put this baling wire cavesson on him so that she won't bother to get a bite. So, that's one tool that you'll have to make on your own.
There you go. David is watching from Port Angeles, Washington. Thanks again for your information. David, it's a pleasure. We're grateful that you're here so often as you are. It really means a lot to us. Bonnie says, my mule finally packed the bit in the mule rider's martingale. After last week's live chat, lowered the bit in the mouth, and guess what? Picked up and packed the bit within minutes. Thanks, my mules and I keep learning. That's what we were just talking about there. That's awesome to hear, Bonnie. Thank you so much. Yeah. Let's see here. Continuing on. James is watching from Western Maryland, 54 degrees and breezy. We've got Linda says, y'all remember when Linda sent you a picture of poor Theo all tacked up? Yeah, that's what happens, Linda. But that's why we're here. That's why we're here to make sure that you get it on the exact same way. And we're grateful that you did because it's been very, very cool getting able to see you grow with Theo. Let's see here. Caitlin says, thank you very much. I'll send you pictures. Kristen is watching from North Dakota. Kind of a different question. I have a couple of draft mules, one a little more horsey in the face, and they are with our horses, one gelding and the rest mares. The herd mares cycle all about the same time. The other day, I noticed my mule is in heat too. I am not certain of her breeding. So kind of a comment there. Is there a specific question that you're hearing coming through, Steve?
No. If you got a mare mules, they will cycle, and especially when comes spring, they will go. And I have seen John mules, i.e. geldings, actually try to breed simply because it's in their nature. They smell the smells that they smells, and they act the way they do, and this sort of thing. And so that John mule will definitely try to do some breeding there, but
all right, so
not all the time.
She just said, okay, so the other day I noticed my mule is in heat too. Can she really be in heat?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, she can really be in heat. And I can tell you, she will actually even stand for a jack and him breed her. Now, if he does breed her and she has a baby, you'll be one in about 10,000 that'll do it, and that worth a lot of money. I can tell you that I've definitely seen jacks breed mares when they're in season, but of course they're missing a chromosome, and so you got 21 chromosomes compared to 23 chromosomes, and therefore they will cycle, but they will not breed and have a baby.
There you go. Great question. Thanks so much, Kristen. I don't think we've had that question before. Sherman Johnson is watching. Steve, what does your 3-2 mule that you ride in weigh? I'm looking for a nice black mule that's 5 years old and 13 hands, but I don't know if she'll handle my weight at 195.6. What do you think I have your trail light saddle?
Well, now the little mule I ride most of the time is 13 hands high, and I rope off of him, ride him all the time. He's great, and I'm 205 pounds, and he packs me all day, and he does my work. So you can go from there. The big thing, folks, is we want to consider is the tendons on these mules, and you got a good chance of blowing them. So it's just like tires in your car. You want to test the air in the tires, make sure that they're good for your trips, and you want us to do the same thing every time I go and pick up my feet before and after my rides, and I feel the tendons and make sure they're good and firm.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Sherman. The next question comes from Josette. Josette sent in an email and says, I adopted a Hinny that was originally from Colorado Roundup. He is 3 with no training. I can pet his forehead and he comes to me, but I have never in my life been around a mule, and he is so smart. I don't know where to begin just to get him halter broke. I would appreciate any additional information you would share with me. So this is a really great question.
Yeah.
What are some things that you would have Josette do right off the bat?
Well, right off the bat, number one, I'd put them in a small pen. Anytime you're training, folks, you want to keep them in a small pen so that they're easy to maintain. And they also want to get out of that pen, so they'll pretty much be willing to come to you quite often. So ground foundation, ground foundation, ground foundation. That's where I would start. Anytime, folks, you need to work with an animal, using the Mule Rider's martingale is the best way to go. So I would get the ground foundation kit, start doing your groundwork, go from there into your Mule Rider's martingale, do your groundwork. I've got a video called Cold Starting that does a really good job of building a foundation, and I would suggest that as well.
So folks, I am putting in the comment section a link to the Ground Foundation starting kit. Folks who watch us every week will tell you that we really, like I've already mentioned, we don't tell folks to go out and buy stuff except for one thing: the Ground Foundation starting kit. It comes with an adjustable rope halter. Don't be using your nylon halters. Don't be using your old, stale, stuck halters. Get yourself a new halter that can be adjusted properly to get down two fingers above the nostril, okay? So it comes with your adjustable halter. It comes with the come-along rope, and both of those tools are going to be needed in Ground Foundation. And they're also tune-up tools, and they're also tools to use when you're having trouble with just about anything. It allows you to communicate quickly and swiftly in a language that the mule understands. But it also comes with an instructional video to show you how to use both of them. And so we put it together in a bundle that you can get. I put the link in the comment section. If you do not have these, please get the bundle. All 3 of them together. We have so many folks who will have just one, and they'll come back and say, well, I need the other 2. Do you have, a deal on the other 2? Because here's the thing. We put a deal on the 3 together. We don't do sales, we don't do promotions, but we do want you to have the Ground Foundation starting kit. So we put it together, put a few dollars off to kind of tell you, hey, this is as important to us as it should be to you. So you can get that if you click on the link, if you don't already have it, and read comments. Folks will tell you. It works wonders for them. The next question we've got, this one comes in from Anna, says, I just recently got a 7-month-old male donkey. My question is about leading him around and establishing good general groundwork behavior. How early is too early to start using the come-along rope on him? He doesn't lead very well right now, and when he decides to stop, there's nothing I can do about it right now with his current halter. He will let me touch and brush him all over, so he's comfortable with my presence, but I feel he doesn't respect me as the leader. So how early can I start with the halter and the come-along rope training?
I actually have taken mules and donkeys and this sort of thing right out of the placenta, out of their bag, and got them standing up, get their first colostrum with mama for breakfast. And then I actually put a piece of baling twine on them, creating a little come-along hitch, and go a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, just get the nose to move around. So you folks, the sooner you can get that come-along hitch on there, the better. Start out with a piece of baling twine like I did, and then once they get up and moving around good, use your come-along hitch all the time. Start with small movements. You'll do great.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Let's hop back over on to the chat and see who else is joining us. Nancy is watching, says, even when my hair braid falls over my shoulder. Oh, I guess I missed some of the previous question. All right, Nancy, let me scroll back up here. Did I miss part of your question? Nancy, would you go ahead and type it back in for me real quick? I apologize. All I see is even when my hair braid falls over my shoulder, suggestions, please. So let's get the rest of that question. RV says, what about the Noavel Headstall?
I haven't I haven't heard of the Noavel Headstall in a long time. I don't like it. It's all that. It's a big old chunk of steel that they created that goes up over top of the nose, and it does more harm than good. And I've actually met the guy that had designed it, but don't take that tool and hang it on the wall and look at it and say, if I go there, I'm going to go in trouble.
What do you say? The past is the past. I'm free at last.
Yeah, you are. That's right. I got it.
That's right. Let's see here. Charlene says never too early while they're still wet to get them started there. Let's see here. Linda says, isn't that the truth? So folks, we're about halfway through here, and we got folks that join us all throughout the entire hour. So if you are just hopping in, we would love to know that you're watching. Please go ahead in the comment section. Put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like so that we know you're here. We can say hello. And then the next thing is if you've got questions, go ahead, put them in there as well. We've got plenty of time today to take any questions that you may have. Ultimately, we want you to get back out there to gain trust and get results with your animal. I mean, that's what makes it worth it, right? That's what makes it so much fun, is to be able to get out there and accomplish some of the things you set out, some of the things that you wanted to do. Matter of fact, Steve, a couple weeks ago, we had Bernie Harberts on talking about his trip from North Carolina, Idaho. That was pretty fun, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, that Barney, he's quite the adventurer. My golly, he's to hear about these desensitizing things. Well, Barney had actually had semi trucks hitting their Jake brakes, going brrr, and he said it wasn't a matter of desensitizing; it was a matter of holding on tight. Wow, he's quite the rider, that Barney.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So just all sorts of fun that we do here. Wanted to get your, what's that?
We're going to be getting my granddaughter on a webinar here shortly.
That's right. We're working on getting a time together. So folks, if you're not on Steve's email list, get registered because we get signed up because we are going to have another event to announce pretty soon. We'll get those dates lined up and it's going to be pretty good. Cheston left a comment over on YouTube. He says, I'm considering buying a mule from a kill pen. When will the article be here on the website? Well, Cheston, that's going to be coming pretty soon. But Steve, do you have any thoughts right off the bat that maybe you want to share about animals from the mules and donkeys that are designated for the kill pen? Anything that you might want to say?
Yeah, you bet. We were just working on that article here the other day with Clarissa.
Carissa, yeah.
Carissa, yeah. And working on that. So here's number one thing, folks. And I know a lot of you don't want to hear this, but number one, don't buy the mule without touching it. Okay, it's very, very important. These one of the classes that I taught at Pierce College in LA was on starting colts, doing imprint training. And one of the things I told people was, I'd rather see most of you not even bother with doing this imprinting or colt, starting a colt from babies on, simply because that mule may not like you. Okay, and we had several people. One in particular, she raised it from her good mare. She had a really good gentle mare with a good jack, and she touched that baby from the very beginning. But that mule did not like her, no way in the world. I've seen that mule attack her a couple different times, and it wasn't pretty. So going on, when you do this kill pen buy, you want to do a vet check before you make your purchase. Folks, not just a vet check of the eyes and the nose and the ears are clear, but a vet check, run a blood test on it, take a look at the feet, make sure we don't have any problems with hooves and legs and knees and stuff. The downside of buying these animals that way is you don't know if they were put through the kill pen because the animal was crippled, or had some kind of intestinal problems. There's lots of things it can be, but there can be too many problems with these animals, and this article is coming out is really going to be helpful to you to look at it. So the big thing is, folks, when you go to buy an animal, if it's saddled up, ready to go, don't ride that animal. It's already been pre-ridden. We call it topped off. See the animal from the very beginning. You watch it being taken out of the pen. You watched it being feet all been picked up and all the groundwork done. And then you watch them being saddled and you watch them being rode in a 10-foot circle. Don't do the big lie of let's get on and just go ride. Don't do that. Do your groundwork first. Make sure that mule can side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, not just opening and closing gates, but can do it away from it. So setting in a 10-foot circle should be able to do it. So I know I probably chased a few mules there on that one, but be careful of this kill pin stuff, folks.
Okay, so Nancy sent in her message. My donkey was gelded about 7 weeks ago and seems more wild now. He's scared of everything, sounds and movement. And that's where she said, even when my hair braids fall over my shoulders. Suggestions, please.
Yeah. Well, he's young, okay? And you got to remember that they are flight because of fright animals. And so it's when they're young like that, sometimes lots of things scare them in a hurry. You get some of them that say, hey, what am I going to, no big deal. But the best thing you can do is put the come along hitch on them and start teaching them to do groundwork. Don't get into the pit of desensitizing because you can't show them everything that they need to be worried about. So, get your come along rope on it, watch your videos, and do your ground foundation training. That's what I would do. And he'll eventually grow out of it. Usually you got to remember they grow till they're 7. They're doing bone, they're doing muscle mass and this sort of thing, and also brain power. But best thing you can do for that donkey right now is taking and doing your ground foundation training.
Very good. The next question we've got, this one comes from Horsey Girl. She says, how old a mule can be to get shoes to contracted heels. So we've got contracted heels. How old can it be to get shoes and then start to correct it?
Just as soon as you can. You don't really need the age. Now, of course, if we're talking about a 6-month-old, that's different. But when we're looking at the mule, if we have about a 3-year-old foot, we can usually spend a lot of time in corrective shoes. But otherwise, before that, you're going to do trimming, and that's the big thing with these babies. You want to balance them and trim them and make sure they're correct.
Very good. Thank you very much. Let's hop back over and see who else has joined us. Let's see. Charlene says, it's never too early to start teaching basics. Mine's only a couple weeks, and he knows how to stand, tide, and pick up feet. That's great. Herman says, hey, guys, watching from sunny Arizona. Hey, there we go. Amy Gann is watching from her kitchen with a pot of fresh spaghetti sauce and meatballs simmering. Save some for Steve next time he's out there.
On my way.
On his way. That's right. Just in about 15 minutes, he'll be hopping on a plane. Let's see. Nancy is watching from Wheeling, West Virginia. Nice out, around 60 degrees. Karen is watching from Raymond, California. Getting hot here. We hear you, Karen. Let's see. Yolanda, I hope to make a trail ride for a couple of days here where I live. We hope you can get to it too, Yolanda. Send pictures. Nancy says, I still can't get a come along rope. I still can't get a come along, can rope him fine. So I think maybe she's getting some autocorrect there. Nancy, let me know if I can clarify something there. Linda says that mule may not like you. My farrier and I just talked about that this week. He trained a mule just right from a baby. Took him to sale, and the mule handled nice for everyone there. But the man who bought him came to take up the lead rope, and that mule just took root. Not until my farrier walked ahead of him into the trailer would he load for the new owner. Does that sound normal, or is that something you've heard of plenty of times?
Oh, I've heard of it a lot of times. Folks, look, it's one thing you going and watching somebody ride, but it's also the next thing is once you've made that decision, don't sit up there and purchase him and say, okay, he's going to do the same thing for me. Nope, no, and no. Okay. You need to touch these animals. You need to spend time with them. Now, I'll just give you, for instance, all right, my own mules. I took and would do a demonstration, and I would climb on the mule and I would ride it and I would do all kinds of things. And then I would say, okay, who here has been riding 20 years? Hands would fly up everywhere. Well, I bring someone down, we let them pet on the mule a little bit, climbs in the saddle, and 15 minutes later, it looked like that mule wasn't even trained. Well, wait a minute, what happened? What happened in 15 minutes? Well, here's the thing. That person did not know how to communicate with the mule, and that's really important. Once I did some work with the person and was able to show them what to do, then the mule responded correctly. These mules are very precise, but that's why I tell you too, is that when it comes down to this buying a mule and being permanent, it's important that you spend the time with the mule so we can see if the mule gets along with you or not.
Awesome. All right, let's keep moving on here. Catherine sent in a message on YouTube, and this one came from one of our older videos. She says, I have an 8-year-old mule trained to drive and ride. She is sweet and brand new to me. How do I join up with a mule and with no round pin? I'm from Ontario, Canada, so we'll give you a Gone International right there. But how do you do that, Steve? How do you join up with a mule when you have no round pin?
Okay, so here's this terminology, join up. That was produced by a guy that wording, join up, was produced by this one trainer, and he would have it to where the mule would look at him or the horse would look at him, he would turn and walk away, and they would walk with him. And so that's called joining up. So what would I do? I don't do round pin work. And if I do round pin work, it's because the mule is hard to catch, or I'm building a foundation with my surf single work and my first rides. But I don't get in there and train. I don't. What I do is use my come along rope. I use my come along training, and I build a foundation without the round pin. And that works very well.
Awesome. Very good. Let's hop back over and see who else is hanging out with us. Let's see. Joey is watching and says, what do you normally do to a mule that wants to move around when saddling? If you put the bridle and bit in before saddling, will it stand still? Thanks from Mississippi.
Okay. No, don't put the bridle and bit on before saddling. That's the last thing you want to do. If he's moving around a lot, we could have a saddle position problem. It could be maybe you have it too far forward, or maybe you don't have the back cinch tight enough, or maybe your breeching's adjusted, lots of different things. The mule is telling you, I'm uncomfortable here, and I need to get comfortable. So again, folks, send me a picture. You've got my phone number at 602-999-6853. Send me a picture of your mule tacked up. And the majority of the time, folks, you've got the saddle on incorrectly. Now, I can also tell you that if you have a downhill hip, where the hip is higher than the wither, you're going to have a problem with fitting, a very big problem, because the mule wasn't designed for, get this, wasn't designed for trail riding. It was designed for working cattle. High in the hip, get down low to work cattle. So send me a picture of your mule tacked up. Be happy to look at it for you.
Steve, did you used to have signature belt buckles?
Yes, it did. Yeah, it sure
Okay,
did.
so Adel Parker from YouTube says, Steve, you should bring back your signature belt buckles. I'd buy one. I feel like we've talked about this before, but tell me a little bit. When did you have belt buckles? Where'd those come from?
Well, I won some different things at different times, and belt buckles was one of the things that I had won. And I thought, you know what, folks ought to have a belt buckle when they're riding my saddle. Steve Edwards' original belt buckles. So I actually had them made, and they were pretty neat. And I would send them out with people when they purchased the saddle. I also had people later on, they'd buy the saddle and be using it, but then they would just sell the belt buckle. It would be on eBay or something. It's an original.
That's a genuine collector's item right there. If y'all have,
There you
if
go.
anybody out there has a Steve Edwards belt buckle, take a picture and send it in to us. Send it
Yeah.
to us. Support at muleranch.com. We'll share that on Facebook. That'd be fun to see. You can send just the belt buckle in, or you can send in you wearing it, riding your Steve Edwards saddle. Don't make any difference to us. We'd love to see it. Okay, let's see here. Nancy says, I can't get a come along rope on him, but I can rope him as he has a halter on, thanks to the vet, but still have a problem around his face with ropes, brushing and touching his face, no problem. Anything else you want to add there, Steve?
Yeah, mules are very, very sensitive. But here's the thing: what we don't want to do, we don't want to leave a halter on that animal because here's the downside: if they get their foot caught in a halter, they can kill themselves by pawing themselves to death. They can get it hung up on a post in the corral or caught up somewhere in the corral. So you want to don't leave a halter on an animal. So if you do put a halter on, it's to be tying them up for a short time only, and not to be left on. It sounds like you need to be doing more come along work. Uh, More than anything else. You sounds like you've also got a mule that's very sensitive about the face, which happens a lot. Mules are very, very sensitive about their nose, and some more than others.
Awesome. There you go, Nancy. Keep us up to date with what you do, how it works. Come back with any follow-up questions. And of course, you can always text pictures or videos to Steve directly. I'll put his cell phone in the comment section again, and Steve will answer back. It may take several hours or it may take till the next day, but he'll get back to you. David Pingelli, there we go. Mr. Come Along Coffee himself. Really good show, guys. Love it. Great information. Thank you, David. Let's see here. Eileen says, now we get knives when we purchase. Is that right? That's right, Eileen. Eileen's been
Right.
hanging out with us just about since the very beginning. I don't know if you watched our very first episode, Eileen, but I know that you started watching within the first 3 or 4, I think. And she got herself set up with everything that she needed and has been hanging out with us ever since. So that's really cool, Eileen. We love that. Let's see here. David says he wants a belt buckle too. So I don't know, Steve. I may have brought up a new to do item. Linda says in your groundwork video, you show the mule turning for you when you run the come along rope behind her. Theo has trouble with that. It's clear I'm confusing him. I run the rope along his back, but as soon as I slip it over to touch his butt, he goes forward instead of turning. What am I doing wrong?
Okay, so what you want to do is the mule is a little bit ahead of you, so it's got to be your timing. Hold the come along rope about 3 foot from the nose. Take the rope and go around the side, around behind the bottom. Try to be ahead of Theo. So as soon as you take the rope and start to touch around behind, if the mule starts to move, bump, 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 bump with your left hand. And then that way you'll be able to catch her in time to tell her feet to stop. She's just getting ahead of you. It's no big deal. It happens all the time. So you've got the rope in your left hand with about 3 foot of rope. Folks, never hold the mule up close like that. Don't do that. 3 foot of rope will give you leverage. Go underneath the neck, down along the side. And as you're going down along the side, go around the bump. And always, this is going to help your timing and riding and this sort of thing as well. If you feel her start to move, bump, bump, bump with the lead rope.
Awesome. Michael Sanders is watching, says, thank you for your insight, Steve. Linda says, I understand Steve has done in some banjo players with those knives. Oh, my goodness. I don't know what.
What? I don't understand that one.
Do you ever get the giggles?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
I don't know what you got there.
I got the giggles. Oh my goodness! I need to get a hold of it, or I'm going to wind up on some sort of a YouTube
Hold
blooper
on
show.
to it. Yeah.
Charlene says, I did get the knife. I was stoked. We're glad to send it out. Eileen says, it took such a long time until I could touch my mule anywhere above his eyes. It's better now. So very good to hear that, Eileen. Thank you very much. I'm just, folks, that is all the questions that have come through. We've got about 5 minutes. So if you've got one more question or so, please feel free to put your questions in there. We'd love to make sure to answer them. Right here, this one comes from Bob. Sent this in on watching one of our YouTube videos. Actually, it's James. He just has all sorts of aliases. We want to know Steve's nutrition and diet. He looks so young every episode. Or is it the mild weather at the ranch? James is such a joker. Thank you for all the guidance. Question, can you show on the shoe where you put 4 nails so I can tell the farrier when I get the donkey shoot? So, Steve, you talk about doing 4 nails, not 6, not 8. Just talk a little bit about that and then describe the placement for us.
Okay, so here's the foot. Okay, this is the front of the foot. Here's the back of the foot. We're going to place the nails in the front of the foot. You'll see there's, depending on the shoe, there's a place for 3 nails or 6 nails, and there's a place for 8 nails. So the very first 2 on the left, the very first 2 on the right, that's where you put the nails.
Very good. Let's see here. I think that's just about it. Nothing else has come in. David wants to know, we'll make this our last question of the day. What happened with last week's fire? So for those who were not watching last week, or haven't been watching and didn't know this, Steve is a volunteer firefighter for the town of Queen Valley. And so he goes through training, he goes through exercises, and he gets called out on jobs. And so last week in the middle of our show, he got a call and we ended right at 4:00 so he could get going. Just what happened, Steve?
Well, what happened was there was a drive shaft on a pickup truck that had broke, and the drive shaft spun around and went out into the grass and started a fire, and it was in the median of the freeway. So there ended up being somewhere around 35, 40 acres. And so it was a Queen Valley Fire, which I'm a member of, and Superior Fire, along with Tonto National Forest Fire. But we got it put out. Always remember, folks, when you see flashing lights, go over in the other lane. Go over there. You got people's lives at danger. And, there's a lot of us that are volunteers. We're there to help. And so we all want to go back to our families. So just an idea, and slow down. You can't believe the amount of people who go busting by us, and we're trying to put out a fire, and we're trying to work with one another, and they put our lives in danger. So, folks, you see flashing lights, slow down and move over.
Yeah. I'm not that old, okay? So I'm only 39 years old this year, but I'm old enough to remember, it just seemed like when I started driving 16, 17, 18 years old, whenever there was an emergency vehicle coming down the road, everybody slowed down, immediately got over. And it seems like today people are just casually like, slow down, but I'm not going to stop. And I'll tell you what, it's very easy to go out and just look at what everybody else is doing and say, well, if other folks would just do this, and you know what, it's right. It would be great if everybody would do it. But one of the things that's great about just life is we get the opportunity to do that for ourselves. And so I say, you know what? I can't control what other people are going to do. But when Steve Edwards says, slow down, get in the other lane, you know what? That's something that I can do. When there's an emergency vehicle coming down and I can pull over to the side, I'm going to do it. Let's just do the right thing, because you're absolutely right, Steve. When you're driving past someone, I think about this. Let's get philosophical just for a second. When I'm driving down the road or on the freeway, it just boggles. Like, I get into this mode and I just think all these people are going home to families. I have no idea who they are, but they're going home hopefully to someone who loves them and cares about them. And I'll never know their name and I'll never know it. But, you know, in my mind, I'm like, but God knows them. God knows their story. God knows their name. God knows every hair on their head. And it's like, man, it's just cool to be able to share and be in a community and do what I can to be responsible and safe so that they can get home. And I can't control their people, but I can control myself, you know?
Yep. Yeah. There you go, buddy. Yeah. It's, you know, since I've been volunteering now the past 5 years, Dave, I've seen life and I've seen death, you know, and I've seen accidents in a variety of ways, but I've also seen firefighters bring back people.
Yeah.
We had one just recently, and this person was gone. They basically were casting their chips. A 28-year-old woman, but this firefighter brought it back with doing CPR and by using the right drugs. And that lady is walking around today because a firefighter put forth the effort to help that lady out. So remember, folks, when you see them flashing lights, that person wants to go home to their family. And if you'll help them out, that'd be a wonderful thing. Hey, blessings to you. In the name of Jesus, we'll see you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next week. God bless. Enjoy.